Everyone talks about how exciting your 20s are, but no one warns you how confusing, overwhelming, and lonely they can feel. Behind the Instagram highlights and success stories lies a decade full of silent struggles and self-discovery. Here's what no one tells you about your 20s, but should. Your 20s are filled with the pressure to be successful, to appear as if you have everything together, and to meet certain societal milestones. But what most people don't emphasize is that this decade isn't meant to be about perfection. It's about laying the groundwork for who you'll become. Instead of stressing over being at the top of your game, this is a time to focus on building strong foundations in your habits, mindset, skills, and personal values. Habits formed in your 20s often carry into later life. If you build a habit of learning something new regularly, managing your time wisely, or taking care of your physical and mental health, you're setting yourself up for long-term success. These small, consistent behaviors are what shape your identity and future far more than achieving any specific goal by a certain age. Rather than trying to impress others with achievements, it's more important to get to know yourself. What motivates you, what drains you, and what direction truly resonates with your inner values. There's also a lot of trial and error during this time, and that's not a sign of failure. It's essential. You might switch career paths, move cities, or end relationships. These shifts don't mean you're lost. They mean you're exploring. Society often glamorizes those who make it in their 20s, but for the vast majority, this decade is full of questioning, experimenting, and stumbling. That's where real growth happens. The resilience and adaptability you develop from these experiences are far more valuable than following a straight path. Skills, especially soft skills like communication, self-discipline, and emotional intelligence, take time to develop. Your 20s are the time to start intentionally growing them. Whether it's through a job you don't love, a difficult roommate, or a tough financial period, you gain tools for the rest of your life. What seems like a setback often becomes a stepping stone. Instead of expecting to feel successful all the time, learn to see yourself as a work in progress. Growth isn't linear, and there's no deadline for having things figured out. Perhaps one of the most underrated foundations is mindset. Cultivating a mindset of curiosity, patience, and grit will serve you more than any job title. Your beliefs about failure, success, and self-worth start to solidify during this time, so the earlier you examine and reshape them, the better. Practicing gratitude, mindfulness, and critical thinking may not feel urgent, but these are the roots of future emotional and mental stability. Trying to perfect everything in your 20s is a losing game. The real power lies in consistency over intensity. A strong foundation, built patiently and intentionally, supports the weight of whatever life throws at you in your 30s, 40s, and beyond. It's not about doing everything right. It's about starting with the right intentions and giving yourself the grace to evolve. In your 20s, relationships begin to shift in unexpected ways. The people you grew up with, your childhood best friends, or even your college circle, may not always stay in your life. This isn't necessarily due to conflict or betrayal. It's often because people grow, evolve, and take different paths. Career changes, relocations, personal growth, or simply diverging priorities naturally create distance. While it may feel confusing or even painful, this process is a normal and healthy part of adult life. Friendships that once felt inseparable might fade without drama. You might find yourself putting more energy into fewer connections and realizing that quality truly matters more than quantity. This can feel isolating at first, especially if you're used to a large social circle, but it can also be liberating. You begin to recognize who genuinely supports your growth, respect your time, and shares your values. Surface-level bonds slowly give way to deeper, more intentional relationships. Romantic relationships, too, begin to take on different weight in your 20s. For some, this decade includes heartbreaks, temporary flings, or long-term commitments. But underneath it all, there's a deeper lesson unfolding. Learning what you need in a partner, and, just as importantly, what you're not willing to tolerate. You realize love isn't just about chemistry or attraction. It's also about emotional maturity, shared vision, and the ability to grow together. Many people spend their 20s discovering that compatibility goes far beyond common interests or physical connection. Family relationships also evolve. As you become more independent, your relationship with your parents or siblings can change dramatically. You might start setting boundaries, asserting your individuality, or questioning long-held beliefs. This is a rebellion. It's part of forming your adult identity. Some relationships strengthen in the process, while others may require distance or redefinition. The transition from being someone's child to being your own person isn't always smooth, but it's deeply important. You also begin to see how much emotional labor and effort real relationships require. You can't just rely on proximity or shared experiences to keep people close. You start valuing vulnerability, honesty, and reciprocity. You notice how draining one-sided friendships can be and how refreshing it is to be around people who understand and accept you without judgment. This new awareness helps you build boundaries and protects your energy for people who deserve it. While drifting apart from certain people may feel like a loss, it also opens space for new, more aligned connections. As you grow, your capacity to choose relationships with intention increases. You're no longer looking for people to fill a void or to validate you, but rather to walk alongside you in mutual respect and support. Emotional maturity, shared growth, and aligned values become more important than just shared history. The more you accept that relationships will evolve, the less you'll cling to the fear of losing people, and the more you'll appreciate the ones who stay and grow with you. This awareness turns relationship changes from something painful into something purposeful. Mental health is often overlooked in your 20s because the focus tends to be on achievement, building a career, pursuing higher education, traveling, or forming relationships. But this decade also introduces a level of emotional intensity that many are unprepared for. You're making life-altering decisions, navigating uncertainty, and experiencing pressure to make it while trying to understand yourself. It's no surprise that anxiety, self-doubt, and even depression begin to surface more frequently during this time. What makes it even more complex is that society glorifies hustle culture. Pushing through exhaustion, working late nights, and sacrificing rest are seen as signs of ambition. But the cost is often invisible: chronic stress, burnout, disconnection from joy, and the slow erosion of mental resilience. When mental health isn't prioritized, it starts affecting everything else. Your productivity, your relationships, your self-worth, and even your physical health. Lack of sleep, poor eating habits, and emotional avoidance become patterns that feel normal but are deeply damaging over time. In your 20s, you're also bombarded with comparison. Social media makes it easy to believe that everyone else is progressing faster, doing better, or living more exciting lives. This false perception feeds a constant sense of inadequacy. You might feel behind even when you're exactly where you need to be. It's emotionally exhausting to measure your worth against curated snapshots of other people's lives, yet a trap many fall into quietly, constantly. The irony is that while this decade is full of external growth, it also demands inner work. Learning to regulate your emotions, sit with discomfort, and ask for help is just as important as learning any hard skill. Recognizing when you're not okay and allow yourself the space to heal or rest doesn't make you weak. It shows maturity. Therapy, journaling, meditation, or even regular conversations with someone you trust can serve as powerful tools to navigate emotional ups and downs. Many people also underestimate the impact of unresolved childhood wounds and belief systems that surface in early adulthood. These can manifest as people-pleasing, fear of failure, imposter syndrome, or emotional avoidance. Ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. It just allows them to grow quietly in the background. Addressing them early on can transform the way you handle challenges later in life. It's also important to know that mental health isn't only about addressing illness. It's about cultivating balance and resilience. Just as we exercise our bodies, we need to build emotional fitness. Practices that keep us centered, calm, and self-aware. That might mean setting boundaries, saying no, or letting go of relationships that drain you. It can also mean celebrating small wins, practicing gratitude, or simply giving yourself permission to rest. Waiting until there's a breakdown before taking care of your mental health is like waiting for your car to break down before changing the oil. The earlier you develop healthy mental habits, the stronger your foundation will be for handling life's inevitable stressors. Being mentally well isn't a luxury. It's a necessity for a sustainable, fulfilling life. Time in your 20s often feels infinite, yet it passes faster than expected. There's a deceptive freedom that can lead to delaying priorities or spending years on paths that don't align with who you truly are. What's often missed is that the way time is used in this decade silently compounds into your 30s and beyond, shaping your mindset, habits, financial situation, and even your self-image. Every hour, day, and year becomes a building block, whether you're conscious of it or not. Social events, distractions, and a desire to always be doing something exciting can lead to unintentionally wasting months or years. That doesn't mean fun should be avoided. It means awareness should accompany it. Being mindful of how you divide your time between rest, growth, and pleasure helps you feel more grounded. When you begin to treat time as a limited currency, your decisions start becoming sharper. You start asking, is this investment of time serving me or draining me? There's also a misconception that real progress takes huge, dramatic actions. In reality, consistent small efforts matter far more. Reading 10 pages a day, learning a new skill for 30 minutes regularly, or networking with one new person each week may seem trivial in the moment, but over a few years, they shape your career and mindset in powerful ways. When you begin to track how these daily choices affect long-term goals, time starts to feel like a tool instead of a stressor. Another area where time is crucial is in building relationships, not just romantic ones, but friendships, mentors, and community. The people you spend time with heavily influence your energy, your standards, and even your level of ambition. Being intentional about who you give your time can alter the course of your life. This doesn't require cutting everyone off, but it does require clarity, recognizing when you're around people who challenge you to grow versus those who keep you stagnant. Learning to prioritize also becomes essential. There will always be more things to do than time allows. Without clarity, it's easy to get lost in busyness instead of effectiveness. Many people spend their 20s reacting to life instead of designing it. But once you begin scheduling your priorities instead of prioritizing your schedule, your use of time becomes more purposeful. This includes learning when to say no, when to unplug, and when to give full focus. There's also an overlooked opportunity in using free time to experiment. Your 20s are ideal for trying new things, side projects, travel, volunteer work, or creative hobbies. These may not have immediate payoffs, but they help you understand yourself and can even lead to unexpected passions or careers. Time used in exploration isn't wasted. It's invested in clarity. Eventually, you'll realize that time isn't something to kill or pass. It's something to shape. Whether you choose to spend it with intention or let it slip by unnoticed, the results will reveal themselves later. The freedom of your 20s is a gift, but only if you learn to value it before it's gone. The idea that you need to have everything figured out in your 20s is one of the most damaging myths young adults face. There's constant pressure to have a clear career path, a stable income, a long-term relationship, and even a 5-year plan, all by the time you're barely out of school. This unrealistic expectation creates unnecessary stress and comparison, especially when life doesn't follow a linear script. What's rarely emphasized is that confusion, uncertainty, and detours are not only normal but often necessary parts of your 20s. Most people are still discovering what they actually want. The interests, goals, and dreams you held at 18 might not align with who you're becoming at 25. This is a decade of deep internal growth, where your identity is constantly being shaped by experiences, failures, and new insights. The career you thought you'd love may turn out to feel hollow. A relationship you were sure would last might end. And while those moments may feel like setbacks, they're often redirections that guide you towards something more authentic. Experimentation is essential, whether you're trying out jobs in different industries, traveling, pursuing side projects, or taking courses in areas you never considered before. It all contributes to greater self-awareness. The goal shouldn't be perfection or certainty. It should be learning. Some of the most successful and grounded people didn't find their direction until their late 20s or 30s. They used their early adult years to explore, fail, reassess, and pivot. Each wrong turn brought them closer to what felt right. There's also a critical emotional component to this stage of life, learning to tolerate ambiguity. Many people experience anxiety not because something is wrong, but because they haven't yet accepted that it's okay to be in a phase of becoming. Society rarely gives space for this process. Everything from social media to family expectations suggests that you should already be there, wherever that may be. But growth isn't visible on a timeline. It happens quietly, through trial, reflection, and resilience. Allowing yourself to be in transition without judgment is a skill. It means trusting the process, even when results aren't immediate. It means learning to separate your worth from your productivity or your current job title. It also involves developing patience with yourself, with your progress, and with the uncertainty that comes from not having clear answers. That patience becomes one of the most valuable assets you carry forward. Trying to force clarity too early can lead to decisions made from fear rather than purpose. People often lock themselves into careers or relationships just to feel secure, only to realize years later that they were avoiding growth. Being lost for a while doesn't mean you failed. It means you're gathering data. You're collecting insights about what energizes you, what drains you, what aligns with your values, and what doesn't. Every experience, even the confusing ones, contributes to this clarity. Your 20s aren't about having all the answers. They're about asking the right questions, making mistakes, and growing through them. This decade is a foundation, not a final destination. The more you embrace the uncertainty, the more powerful and authentic your path becomes.